What is up? Welcome back to another video episode of the news. It is Monday. It is Monday. It is Monday.
Wrong call.
Monday. So let's get into the news. Now remember, if you join the channel, become a Bronco buddy, not only do you get that special shout out at the beginning of every video, you also get exclusive access to content, early access to other content, and the ability to vote on upcoming videos. So if you don't want to miss out on any of those perks and more, feel free to join the channel. I appreciate that support very much. But if you can't, all good. Just like this video and subscribe. That support helps out a bunch as well. With that out of the way, let's jump into the news. There's quite a bit to talk about today. We got a couple big stories from Kodak, a couple other stories from other manufacturers, but I want to focus on the Kodak stuff first because this big story broke last week on Monday. I think I was just finishing up with the news segment for last week. It was already jam-packed, so I wanted to hold off until this week. So if you haven't seen it, check out last week's video. A lot of good stuff there. But this is Kodak's new look. Of course, they're rebranding some of their film, specifically the Kodak Gold 200 and Kodak Ultramax film stocks. And this is interesting on a few fronts. One, not only is it introducing a new look for these films, which is a little bit more cohesive with their Kodacolor design language, that kind of retro styled packaging, but it also goes to show that the Kodak, Eastman Kodak, has a bit more control over film distribution and sales. Now, I'm probably going to butcher this because as many times as I've talked about this, I still kind of feel like I butcher it. But basically, Kodak, in one of its many bankruptcies, had to split companies and became Eastman Kodak, Kodak Alaris. Now, Kodak Alaris was then sold to British pension fund, which held control over it for a very long period of time, up until about a year and some change ago, I think a year and a half ago. They sold Kodak Alaris to Kingswood Capital, which is a private equity firm. And there's not really been many developments out of that, outside of a few months ago when Kingswood Capital was selling their chemical developing processing plant in Colorado. Now, the big storyline items was September, Eastman Kodak started selling film. This is huge because previous to this, Kodak Alaris had the rights to all of the motion picture and still film. Eastman Kodak produced it, but Kodak Alaris sold it. I don't know how that works. I do not have a business degree, but apparently it made sense. For whatever reason, that seems to have flipped back for some film stocks, notably Kodacolor and Kodak Gold 200 and Ultramax 400. Now, this is interesting because Kodacolor 100 and Kodacolor 200, no matter what you want to say about what they potentially could be, whether it's a Color Plus or a Gold 100 or a Pro Image 100, whatever, those were not really pre-existing films so much as they were back in the day. The lineage had kind of stopped. So they're kind of reintroducing the name and potentially just reusing some stock that they have on hand. So that's that. With the Gold 200 and Ultramax 400, they're taking a known entity, known films in the space, beloved films in the space, some could say, and they're now rebranding them under the similar design language of the Kodacolor stocks, but selling them now as Eastman Kodak, which is pretty huge. Now, there's a few elements to this that are of note. First is the price. Now, as I go over to Freestyle Photo, they have all of the new film stocks here on sale, all on pre-order as of now, but the pricing is very, very competitive. 5-pack of Kodak Gold and 120 for $42.95, which is shaking out to about $8, a little bit more than $8 a roll. We have Ultramax 400 in a 3-pack for $26.97, which is $8.99 a roll, whereas a single roll of 36 exposures is $9.15. Kodak Gold 200 36 exposure 3-pack for $24.99, so a little bit cheaper Then the Ultramax and the single roll is $849. So we're seeing pretty major price decreases, I think, from where they were at like previously. I believe a roll of Kodak Gold 36 exposure was like $9.99, a little bit north of that potentially. Now this is going to be different for each seller of film. I feel like freestyle photo is a pretty good place to go for standard pricing. My suspicion is that potentially because it's just coming straight out of the horse's mouth from Eastman Kodak, we might be seeing some lowered prices across the field. But that is speculation. I'm not entirely sure. Now, the second point I want to bring up is kind of an existential one, and that is private equity as it exists. It doesn't take a whole lot of research into Kingswood Capital to kind of figure out that they have screwed over businesses in the past, businesses with dedicated consumer base, and they have made it very unaffordable for people. They have made it more difficult, and in some cases just completely screwed over consumers and the company for profit, which is well within their purview to do because that is the nature of private equity. It doesn't really matter too much the lineage of said company. They're just more concerned about making that cha-chang. When the news initially broke that Kodak is being sold, Kodak Alaris, of course, is being sold to this private equity firm, I was a little bit concerned because private equity is not a huge boost of money into a potentially dying or struggling brand. It isn't a fresh mind at the head of the table to try to navigate it. It is a mind behind the scenes trying to figure out, okay, how much wealth can we extract from this known property? I think what we're seeing is something a little bit more interesting than that, which is the film rights are kind of shifting back to Eastman Kodak. Now, I'm not sure about any of this. In fact, this requires a much more deep dive that I've not really done, not become mentally equipped for that at the moment, so I might do this in the future, but just kind of trying to frame this in a way that it isn't just Kodak make old film look new. This is a bit bigger than all of that, so definitely worth looking into a little bit more. I will see what I can scour up in the next few days, weeks, and hopefully have some more evidence to suggest that this is going to be overall a very positive thing for the film community. But I think if we just look at the prices as it stands, who knows how long these low costs are going to be around for. They're pretty low. That's pretty great. So hopefully good stuff to come in the future. Speaking of the future, we have huge news on Kodak's future, and this is their Q3 financial results from 2025. Now, the last time their financial results came out for Q2, it was not very good for Kodak. There was some going concerns in terms of their debts that they had to pay off because they had to legally say there's a going concern. People kind of took that and ran with it. There was a multitude of headlines, a lot of videos. Everybody was, crying wolf, rightfully so, scary stuff. And from that point, we've had new film stocks being released by them. We've had a few other developments as well. It seemed to be relatively smooth sailing, but then looking at their Q3 results here, I'd say things have rebounded quite a bit. Now, beyond all that, if we just look at the evaluation of the company on the stock market, which is a thing I never thought I'd say in my entire life, it does show a huge dip after the August call, and then it shows a huge increase on this past Friday. Major increase. We are up to $8.80 USD per share. Right, but what does the stock really mean? What it shows to me, at least, is that there's a wider scope of confidence in the brand, and I think that their Q3 results would attest to that as well. As we kind of go through the highlights, they have an increase in revenue from $8 million from this quarter to the last quarter. There is a gross profit of $68 million compared with the $45 million from Q3 24, which is increase of $23 million, 51%. Gross profit percentage of 25% compared with 17%. Major highlights here is that the going concern is fully resolved. And beyond that, their AM&C, Advanced Materials and Chemicals business, has seen a major increase of $11 million from this time last year. And a lot of this has to go with their ability to produce pharmaceutical components, and that seems to be going off without any kind of hitches. which is fantastic to see. They've also increased their cash balance, which is great because that was something that they were kind of losing quite a bit of the last few years as I've been watching this stuff. And the pension fund initially was hoping to achieve somewhere around 500 million, is looking like it's going to be more along the lines of 600 million, which is a pretty major increase as well. Revenue has increased, cost seemingly has decreased, and overall Kodak looks like it has righted the ship in ways that it needed to in order to answer to the debts that they had previously, and also kind of continue to answer to a broader market space, whether that be the medical field, the pharmaceutical field, whatever it may be, continue to produce and provide film for all of us addicts. So it looks like it's really good news overall, and I suspect that their ability to sell film from themselves will just increase the profits that they're seeing. So all seems to be good and well in the world there. I'll link this down below if you want to dig in to their financial results yourself. From my very uneducated perspective, it looks like it's pretty good, and I'm pretty confident. It would appear as though they finally have enough gas in the tank to, sponsor my channel here. It's going to cost them a pretty penny, but I'm telling you, it's definitely not at all worth it. So Kodak, if you're out there, if you're watching, thank you, and just hit up my line anytime you want. I probably won't answer, but, leave me a message. Let's get in touch. Why not? To another film company that was on the ropes, but now it's back, Ferrania. We're back, baby. Back on Facebook, that is, at the very least. And you can check them out at their new Facebook. I will link it down below. Kind of famously, their last Facebook page was taken over by hackers. It's out here, Film Ferrania. There's 159 followers. So if you want to be the prestigious 160th, the link is down below for all of that. There's not really been any huge developments from Film Ferrania as of yet. We're going to just kind of have to wait and see as things roll out. But I have seen some of their film stocks back, primarily the P30 and Orto, like on certain sites. You can still find it. I don't know if this is fresh stock. I don't know if it's old stock or a combination of the both, but it is good to see all the same. And P33 should be coming back in relatively short order. So very excited about that. But that's Film Ferrania. Check them out, and would love to hear more from them in the future. The final bit of news, which is coming at us from Light Lens Lab. This is the update on their 35mm 1.4 spherical lens. It is officially available for pre-order, and there are a little bit more details in terms of the lens characteristics, the weight, all of the other things about it. For the aluminum, which is the black paint and chrome finishes, just kind of the standard one, you're looking about $13.99 USD. For the titanium gray limited edition, $16.99. Now this is not including taxes or tariffs, anything like that. Price maybe could go up depending, because Light Lens Lab is a Chinese-based company, so I don't know what the current tariff rate is looking like. For the titanium gray, the shipping looks like it begins December 1st of this year, and for the aluminum, the black and the gray, it looks like it will begin January 7th of the next year. And then the final note is that for the titanium limited edition, they're selling more than 300 units. That was the previous ceiling that they were going to sell at. But it looks like it is still going to be very limited because they don't have that much titanium, which is understandable. So if you want to pre-order the titanium one, those will close on November 21st, 2025, 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So jump in on that before then if you want the titanium limited edition. But that pretty much does it for today. Quick roundup of the news. We've got new looks for the Kodak Gold 200 and Ultramax 400 film with new decreased prices. We also have the Q3 financial results from Kodak, which paint a much brighter picture than the Q2 results. We have Film Ferrania back on Facebook with an updated page, as well as being generally more active on their social media platforms. And of course, we have the 35mm 1.4 spherical lens from Light Lens Lab. A lot of interesting stuff to talk about today. Like I said, I want to dive in a little bit more into the Kodak film stuff, see if I can figure anything out. So we might be having more talks about that next week, depending on how it goes. Stay tuned for that. Easiest way to do that is like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on those videos, as well as all the other videos I have coming out on this channel. Other people you shouldn't miss videos from is the Celluloid Collective. Great group of guys producing some really high quality content. But definitely check them out on YouTube. Very helpful stuff. They also have a great stock of film for sale on their website I encourage you to check out. We also have our friends over at Colorful Analog Cameras. Very affordable way to customize your cameras with unique designs. Also great presence on social media. Go show her some love on all of the platforms. My friend over at Ravenni Labs, producing some very high quality camera testing equipment, light meters, all sorts of good stuff. Check him out. The first edition of Shy Film Club should be releasing relatively soon, so make sure to follow him on Instagram so you don't miss out on that. And finally, we have the app with Frames, a great way to digitally catalog your analog photography. Download it on the App Store for your phone or your computer. Thank you all so much for watching. It means a lot to me. Appreciate the support. As I said, like the video and subscribe. A lot more videos coming out this week, so stay tuned for all that, and I will catch you on the next one.